Hello everyone, this is Arush Jadath here from Shahid Bhagat Singh College, Section A, roll number 279, and today we'll be talking about Chapter 3, the registration, and under that we'll be studying Section 29, which deals with cancellation of registration, and Section 30, which deals with revocation of cancellation of registration. This is a very important topic when it comes to theory questions in our GST exams, and I hope you like this video and gain something insightful from the same. Thank you. Hello everyone. So as told you before, we'll be studying chapter 3 registration today, and under that we'll be studying section 29, which deals with cancellation of registration, and section 30, which deals with revocation of cancellation of registration, right? Cancellation or suspension of registration, section 29 with rules 20 to 22. So one question that has come in the CM exams recently is this: discuss the circumstances where the registration is liable to be cancelled. This is likely to also be asked in our own examinations, so you can take note of this. Now we'll be studying cancellation or suspension of registration, section 29. 1. The proper officer may, either on his own motion, suo motu, or on an application filed by the registered person or by his legal heirs on that of such person, cancel the registration in such manner and within such period as may be prescribed in Rule 20, having regard to the circumstances where a. the business has been discontinued, transferred fully for any reason including that of the proprietor, amalgamated with other legal entity, demerged or otherwise disposed of. So, a proper officer or a registered person can cancel the registration of a business which has been discontinued, which has been transferred fully to any other person, or in the case of death of the proprietor, when a company is amalgamated with other legal entity. Basically, one company is merging with some other company to form a new company as a whole, or in a demerger where one large company is divided into two smaller companies, right? In that case, a business can be, can be cancelled or be suspended for registration. B. There is any change in the constitution, that is change in PAN of the business. So basically, constitution can change when there are new partners on board, when a sole proprietorship firm is turned into a partnership firm. In that case, the whole constitution of the firm is changed, and in that case, we have to cancel or suspend the registration. C. The taxable person, other than the person registered voluntarily, is no longer liable to be registered under section 22 or section 24, right? So these are the three cases as discussed above when it is requested by taxpayer, right? So in one case, when the turnover of the business is less than 20 lakhs, right, when we are not liable to pay GST, we can cancel our registration, right? So suppose in the first year I have a revenue of 40 lakhs, the aggregate turnover of 40 lakhs, and after 2 years my aggregate turnover is less than 20 lakhs, right? So in that case, then I can cancel my registration since I am not under section 22 or section 24, and I'm not liable to pay GST, right? It can be cancelled by the tax officer on his own motives, and third is it can be cancelled by legal heirs in case of death of the taxpayer, right? As per Rule 20, a person seeking cancellation of registration should file Form GST 16 along with details of input and capital goods held as stock with supporting documents within a period of 30 days from the occurrence of the event warranting the cancellation. So when we want to cancel our registration, we basically fill Form GST REG 16, right? That's the form that we need to fill. Provided that during pendency of the proceedings relating to cancellation of registration filed by the registered person, the registration may be suspended for such period and in such manner as may be prescribed. So the Rule 21A says that suppose I cancel my registration on 21st, I cancel my registration on the 1st of May, right? I file an application for cancellation on 1st of May, and on 14th May, my registration has been cancelled by the proper officer. So between the period of 1st May and 14th May, right, my registration stands suspended, right? So between 1st and 14th, my registration is suspended when the proceedings relating to cancellation of the registration are filed by me, right? Hope this makes things clear. 2. The proper officer may cancel the registration of a person from such date, including any retrospective date, as he may deem fit, fair, a registered person has contravened provisions of the Act or Rule 21. So in this case, we'll be talking about all the cases where the proper officer can cancel registration on his own basis, right? He does not need the consent of the registered person. So in which cases, number one, the registered person does not conduct any business from the place of the declared place of business, right? So suppose I have a business which is registered in UP, right? But I do not do business from UP, and instead I do it from Delhi, right? So that is you know, that is not the right way to do it. And in this case, the proper officer can cancel my registration, right? Number B, issues invoice or bill without supply of goods or service in violation of the provisions of this act or the rules made thereunder. So for example, this is a case of bogus billing, right? So what happens is, I have a lot of fake bills and I do fake billings, and but instead I'm not supplying any product, right? There's no evidence of me supplying products in lieu of the bills that I'm generating, right? So this is called bogus billing. And if I do this, I'm in violation of the provisions of this act, and I can be, cancelled from my registration. C, violates the provisions of section 121, anti-profiteering of the act or the rules made thereunder. Anti-profiteering we'll be studying later on, but it basically means when I'm not passing my input tax credit benefit to the people I'm selling my goods to, right? I'm selling the goods at a higher price than I'm supposed to sell. So this is basically anti-profiteering. We'll be studying about it later. D, violates the provisions of Rule 10A, which is to furnish bank details. So what happens is, when I get registered for GST, I have to inform, the proper officer about my bank details within a period of 45 days, right? If I don't furnish my bank details within a stipulated period of time, the proper officer is, can cancel my registration without asking me. B, a person paying tax under Section 10 composition key has not furnished return for 3 consecutive periods. So composition key levy is levied on certain small taxpayers, and if I'm a part of that scheme and I haven't furnished my return for 3 consecutive tax period, my registration can be cancelled. C, any registered person other than composition dealer has not furnished returns for a continuous period of 6 months. So if I'm a normal taxpayer and I haven't filed my returns for a period of 6 months, which is a continuous period of 6 months, my registration can be cancelled or suspended, right? D, any person who has taken voluntary registration or has not commenced business within 6 months from the date of registration. So if I have taken a voluntary registration and I have not commenced my business for a period of 6 months, my registration can be cancelled. E, registration has been obtained by means of fraud, willful misstatement or suppression of facts, provided that the proper officer shall not cancel the registration without giving the person an opportunity of being heard. Provided further that during pendency of the proceedings related to the cancellation of registration, the proper officer may suspend the registration for such period and in such manner as may be prescribed. So basically, here it says that I have, whenever the proper officer cancel my registrations, I have a period of 7 days to, give a reasons as to why my registration should not be cancelled, right? I can, give reasons about what I have not done wrong, and, I can plead my case to the proper officer of not cancelling my registration. And if the proper officer feels that, this is a good enough case that I've given, he or she may not cancel my registration and can revoke it. Third, cancellation does not affect tax liability. The cancellation of registrations shall not affect the liability of the person to pay tax and other dues or to discharge any obligation under this act or the rules made thereunder for any period prior to the date of cancellation, whether or not such tax and other dues are determined before or after the date of cancellation. So it basically means that if I'm not a registered person, that does not mean I'm not liable to pay tax, right? So who's a taxable person? Basically, taxable person is someone that is liable to pay tax or who pays tax regularly, right? So two things: the one who pays tax and the second who is liable to pay tax, right? So if I'm liable to pay tax, and that does not mean my cancellation, takes away my liability to pay tax, right? Deemed cancellation under CGST Act. The cancellation of registration under the State Goods and Services Tax Act or the Union Territory Goods and Service Tax Act, as the case may be, shall be deemed to be a cancellation of registration under this act, right? 5. ITC on stock and capital goods to be paid back on cancellation. Every registered person whose registration is cancelled shall pay an amount by way of debit in electronic credit ledger or electronic cash ledger equivalent to the credit of input tax in respect of inputs held in stock and inputs contained is semi-furnished or furnished goods held in stock or capital goods or plant and machinery on the day immediately preceding the date of such cancellation or output tax payable on such goods, whichever is higher, calculated in such manner as may be prescribed. So basically, we know that there are three parts of the business, right? Raw materials, finished goods, and goods in production, right? Three things that we have studied before in financial management also, right? So what happens is I avail ITC on all three, products that I am selling. On all the three aspects of the business, I avail ITC, and then I cancel my registration, right? It does not mean that I can avail ITC after my cancellation also. I have to pay back the amount, right? That is easy to understand, that ITC on stock and capital goods needs to be paid back on cancellation, right? Payment for capital goods. Provided that in case of capital goods or plant and machinery, the taxable person shall pay an amount equal to the input tax credit taken on said capital goods or plant and machinery reduced by such percentage points as may be prescribed, or the tax on transaction value of such capital goods or plant and machinery under section 15, whichever is higher. 6. The amount payable under subsection 5 shall be calculated in such manner as may be prescribed. So here I have made a list of the stages and the steps of cancelling on GST portal, right? So step 1 is we log in into the GST portal and click on cancellation of provisional registration, which is here as you can see in the image, right? We first go and log in and then we click on this part. Step 2, the cancellation page opens. Your GST and name of business will show automatically. And third, you are required to give a reason for cancellation, right? So GST and ID will be here, legal name of our business will be here, and so GST and ID is here, legal name of business is here, and here I can give my reasons for cancellation. You will be asked if you have any tax invoices during the month, right? Here it is asked whether I have issued any invoice, and we need to fill all the stuff. Simply fill up the details of authorized signatories. Place finally sign off with EBC with UR, proprietary or a partnership. LLPs and companies must mandatory sign with DSE. Note, the taxpayers who have not issued tax invoice can avail above service. If the taxpayer has issued any tax invoice, then Form GST REG 16 needs to be filled. As we talked about before also, when we want to cancel, Form GST REG 16 is filled if we want to cancel our registration. Right, suspension of registration. Date of suspension, where a registered person shall be applied for cancellation of registration under Rule 20, the registration shall be deemed to be suspended from the date of submission of the application or the date from which the cancellation is sought, whichever is later, pending the completion of proceedings for cancellation of registration under Rule 22. Right? So the date of registration for cancellation or suspension can be the date of submission of the application for cancellation or the date from which the cancellation is sought, right? I can, specify that I want to cancel my registration from the said date, right? And whichever is later, that will be the date of suspension. Number 2, date of suspension determined by proper officer. To this explanatory, the proper officer can decide for a date from his own choice, and that will be the deemed date of suspension which the business has to follow, and that shall be the date of suspension for that business. But the proper officer has reasons to believe that the registration of a person is liable to be cancelled under section 29 or under Rule 21, he may, after affording said person a reasonable opportunity of being heard, suspend the registration of such person with effect from a date to be determined by him, pending the completion of the proceedings for cancellation of registration under Rule 22. So the proper officer can determine whatever date that he or she feels is the date for the suspension, right? It's his authority to decide the date of cancellation, right? Third, not to make taxable supplies or furnish any return. A registered person whose registration has been suspended shall not make any taxable supplies during the period of suspension and shall not be required to furnish any returns, right? So you know when my registration has been suspended, obviously I cannot make any taxable supply, I cannot make any sale, and I cannot furnish any returns, obviously. Revocation of suspension. The suspension of the registration shall be deemed to be revoked under completion of the proceedings by the proper officer under Rule 22, and such revocation shall be effected from the date on which the suspension has come into effect. 5. Issue of revised tax invoice and first return becomes applicable where any order having the effect of revocation of suspension of registration has been passed. The provisions of Section 31(3) and Section 40 in respect of the supplies made during the period of suspension and the procedure specified therein shall apply. Right. Now, Rule 22, cancellation of registration. 1. Issue of show cause notice. Where the proper officer has reasons to believe that the registration of a person is liable to be cancelled, he shall issue a notice to such person in Form GST Reg 17 in requiring him to show cause within a period of 7 working days from the date of service of such notice as to why his registration shall not be cancelled. So we discussed this, above also, where we said that a person who has a business has an opportunity to explain why his registration should not be cancelled, and he or she should fill that in Form GST Reg 17 to give reasons on why his registration should not be cancelled or suspended. Reply to SCN. The reply to the show cause notice issued shall be furnished in Form Reg 18 within 7 working days from the date of notice. So the reply that has to be made by the business which is supposed to be cancelled should be made in Form Reg 18 within 7 working days from the date of notice, right? And the notice is issued in Form GST Reg 17, and the reasons to for the show cause notice and the reply that should be given is to be made in Form Reg 18. Order of cancellation. Where a person is no longer liable to be registered or his registration is liable to be cancelled, the proper officer shall issue an order in Form GST Reg 19 within the period of 30 days from the date of application or the date of reply to the show cause notice. Cancel the registration with effect from a date to be determined by him and notify the taxable person, directing him to pay arrears of any tax, interest or penalty including the amount liable to be paid. Right? Hope that's self-explanatory. Drop of proceedings for cancellation. Whether reply furnished to SCN is found to be satisfactory, the proper officer shall drop the proceedings and pass an order in Form GST Reg 20. So, whenever I have given a reply on why my registration is not to be cancelled, and the proper officer feels that this is a good enough reply, right? And he or she decides that, the registration should not be cancelled now, then he or she can pass an order on the proceedings in Form GST Reg 20, provided that where the person furnishes all the pending returns and makes full payment of the tax dues along with applicable interest and late fee, the proper officer shall drop the proceedings and pass an order in Form GST Reg 20 as explained to you above. 5. The provisions of Sub-Rule 3 shall mutatis mutandis apply to the legal heirs of a deceased proprietor as if the application had been submitted by the proprietor himself. Revocation of cancellation of registration. Section 30. Application for revocation of cancellation. Any registered person whose registration is cancelled by the proper officer on his own motion may apply to such officer for revocation of cancellation of the registration in the prescribed manner within 30 days from the date of service of cancellation order. Right. So if my registration has been cancelled, then I can, give a notice to the proper officer as to why my registration should not be cancelled, and this should be done within 30 days from the date of service of cancellation order. Right. Number 2, exception or rejection of application. The proper officer may in such manner and within such period as may be prescribed by order either revoke cancellation of the registered person or reject the application, provided that the application for revocation of cancellation of registration shall not be rejected unless the applicant has been given an opportunity of being heard. Third, deemed revocation under CGST Act. The revocation of cancellation of registration under the State Goods and Services Act or the Union Territory Goods and Services Act, as the case may be, shall be deemed to be a revocation of cancellation of registration under this Act. Lastly, another question: what are the advantages of taking registration in GST? Right, and this is something that we can also study on. So that's the end of the video. Hope you liked it, and hope that it gives you and explains to you a lot about this chapter and the following two sections that we have studied. Thank you.